positive, 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 tunnel vision, tunnel vision, tunnel vision. It's time, it's time, it's time. Today is April the 22nd, 2025, and it is 8:58 a.m. The Godfather trilogy, the Godfather trilogy, the Godfather trilogy. Time frame 1901 to 1980. Okay. The Godfather series, trilogy, epic, collection, novelty, whatever you want to call it, it's my number one movie series of all time because it traces the story of Michael Corleone, the story of Vito Corleone, and the overall story of the Corleone family and the American dream. Okay. And like I said in my last video, movie review number 3, which was The Godfather Part 1, the first version of The Godfather that I watched was the TV special called The Novelty, which is a combination of the first movie and the second movie, and even the third movie, all in chronological order, starting from Vito's boyhood to him being a founding member of the Corleone family, all the way until you get to a 60-year-old Michael Corleone and Godfather 3. And the way they did it, they would play the novelty, and then right after the novelty, they would play the Godfather Part 3 with the extra footage of the flashbacks of Michael sitting in the chair, which was the end of Godfather 2, pondering and thinking about the decisions that he made. And the actual opening of the novelty is Michael in exile, pretty much the ending of Godfather 2 when he's sitting there. That's pretty much the opener, okay, of the Godfather novelty. And like I said, I searched everywhere to try to buy it. And that was the last thing that I taped on VHS. I know I'm telling my age right now. I'll be 35 next month. That was the last thing I taped, was the Godfather TV special. Okay. But I'm going to take you through the story, a brief story. This is a spoiler alert. I'm going to be giving spoilers. So if you haven't watched the Godfather trilogy, do not watch this. Turn it off. Now it starts off, okay, with a young Vito Corleone with his mother, at the funeral of his father, who wouldn't submit to the Don at that time in Sicily. Okay. His older brother got killed, which left Vito as the only boy. He was about 10 years old at the time. So his mother takes him to see the Don of that particular area, which was Corleone at the time. And she begs him to spare his son's life. And that the fact that he's done with it, he's quiet. But the Don knew that when he grew older, he would seek revenge just like his older brother did for their father. So she pretty much, puts a knife to the Don's throat, which allows Vito to get away, and two of the Don's guards pretty much blow her away with a shotgun. Vito winds up getting away, and he winds up getting smuggled out of Sicily, the town of Corleone, to America. Okay. Now, Vito Corleone, his real name is Vito Andolini. And he got the name Vito Corleone pretty much by mistake when he came over to America, because he didn't talk like that. He didn't talk at all. So the guy that was checking him in wound up, making a mistake and putting him down as Vito Corleone instead of Vito Andolini. So he gets to America and he winds up working an honest job. He grows up, he winds up working an honest job at a grocery store. Okay. And he winds up befriending Clemenza, who pretty much asks him for a favor to hold his weapons for him. He winds up holding it for him, and he returns the favor by giving him a rug for him and his wife in Little Santino at the time. Okay? Now, this is a fast forward, all right? And throughout that time, they meet. He meets Tessio, okay, the Viper. And see, I'm going to point this out. Vito's first crime was the whole rug situation with him and Clemenza. Okay? That's when he first did his first crime. And during that time also, there was a guy named Fanucci who was the Black Hand. He ran the neighborhood. He extorted people. He was Italian. He extorted Italians. Okay? And the turning point for Vito was when Fanucci pretty much got Vito's boss in the grocery store to fire him for his nephew. And after that, Vito was out of work. Okay? And him, Clemenza, and Tessio started stealing dresses. And Vito was also able to get a license to drive trucks at the time. Okay? He had a license to drive a truck. And that's when Fanucci hopped on his little truck and he extorted him. And that's when they had the infamous meeting, and Vito told Clemenza and Tessio that he was going to make Fanucci an offer he couldn't refuse. He met up with Fanucci. He gave Fanucci a fraction of what he wanted, and he allowed Fanucci, pretty much went for the bait. Vito told him, he's on tough times right now. He don't have the money, which exposed Fanucci, because if he was a real boss, he should have took care of Vito right then and there, because your reputation is everything. Soon when Vito exposed him as being weak, he knew that he could take care of him. Okay? And shout out to the person on the Reddit that pointed this out. Once Fanucci left from that meeting after he touched Vito's face, that was the first time you see Vito do the infamous. And shout out to that Reddit person that pointed that out. The cheek touching. That was the first time he did that. Shout out to you, the person on Reddit that pointed that out. Shout out to you. And after that, he took care of Fanucci during a parade. And then he became the Don of the neighborhood. But the thing is, what I liked about the story of the young Vito Corleone rising was he played it cool. He played along with Funucci. And he waited for the right opportunity to take care of him. And he knew that he wasn't a real Don. He wasn't a real boss. Okay? And he had the toughness and the fortitude to actually make that step. And see a young Vito Corleone is very similar to a young Michael Corleone. That's where you see the similarities between Michael and Vito. They're both quiet and calculated. Okay. After Don Vito took over the neighborhood, he got his revenge on the Don that killed his father, his brother, and his mother. Okay. I don't know. See, the thing, I'm a little conflicted. I'm a little confused because there was an older lady when he took his family back to Sicily that had the Empire State Building statue figurine, and I thought that was his mother. I'm not sure. Y'all let me know in the comment section if y'all think that's his mother or is it somebody else. But allegedly killed his mom. Okay? He went back, he exact revenge, okay, with Don Tomasimo at the time. Okay? And after he got the revenge, he pretty much solidified his position as Don. Okay? Now, in the book, it talks about the different wars that happened throughout the years leading up to 1945, okay, that really solidified his position as Don. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to skip all the way to 1945. Now, Vito was well respected, okay? He's an older man, and he's humble. He hasn't forgot where he's come from. He's taking requests on his daughter's wedding. And Sollozzo wants to do a deal. He wants to get in narcotics. He wants Vito to finance him in this operation because he has the political connections. Vito says no because he sees ahead that it was going to destroy everything that they built. Sollozzo winds up, making an attempt to take Vito out, but he fails. But Vito winds up very wounded. In the meantime, we're introduced to a young Michael Corleone that wants nothing to do with the family business. But soon when his father is pretty much attempted to be killed, that's when he starts slowly but surely wanting to become a part of the family business. Okay? So they set up a meeting with Sollozzo, and Michael winds up killing Sollozzo and Captain McCluskey, who assaulted Michael and broke his jaw. That night, he went to visit his father, Vito Corleone. Then he goes on pretty much a run in hiding in Sicily. He meets his wife. He marries his wife, even though he's still dating Kay, which was a non-Sicilian. He marries a Sicilian, and he develops a close relationship with his bodyguards in Sicily. And Michael made a mistake in Sicily by telling his wife, Apollonia's father, his real name, which led to Fabrizio getting that information to Bonzini, and Bonzini making an attempt on his life, putting a bomb in his car after he finds out that Sonny has been killed. But his wife gets in there because he's been teaching her how to drive, okay? And the car blows up with her inside of it instead of Michael. Michael comes back to the United States after 2 years of being in exile. Now, I believe that he was away in Sicily for a year and he was in hiding in the United States for a year, getting counsel from Vito Corleone. After Sonny was killed, Vito Corleone was never the same because Sonny was supposed to be the heir to the Corleone family. And I believe that Vito Corleone would have smoothed Sonny out from his hot-headed temperament and demeanor and him being a ladies' man. Okay? I believe that. The same way that Vito counseled Michael, he would have counseled Sonny and he would have smoothed Sonny out because Sonny was the oldest. Okay? All right? So, my infamous favorite part of the movie was when Vito told Michael he didn't want that for him. And he pretty much is saying, I don't apologize for the decision that I made to take care of my family. And he refused to be a puppet on a string. And then one day that a Corleone could be the one that's the puppeteer. And that's what he wanted for Michael. Because Michael was the most like him. And during that time, the Corleone family is weak, because Sonny's death made the Corleone family weak. And all that time, Bonzini was a part of all that was going on at that time. But it seemed like it was Tattaglia. Tattaglia was the front for Bonzini. Okay? Salazzo was a front for Bonzini, who wanted to become the Don of New York City, and he almost succeeded. Okay? He was the true hand in the velvet glove. Okay? Now, Michael becomes Don, and the plan is to move the Corleone family out of Nevada, out to Nevada, making it seem like they're weak, but they're not. Okay? But also plotting to take out the heads of the 5 families, which they successfully do. But before that, Vito Corleone dies. And then, like I said, throughout all this, there's a loyalty. There's a loyalty, friction with Clemenza and Tessio. You have Clemenza complaining to Michael, about what he wants to do and what he thinks should happen. And you got Tessio just, being quiet and playing along. It would seem on the surface that Clemenza would be the one to trade. But Clemenza was more family-oriented and Tessio was more business-oriented. So Tessio was the one that traded and made a deal with Bonzini, which I believe would have made him the head of the Corleone family eventually. Okay? So Vito's last warning before he passed was whoever comes to you with the deal will be the trader. And I believe Vito knew that it would be Tessio because Tessio, even way back when they made a decision to let Vito take care of Funucci from a business perspective, not knowing he was going to take Funucci out, Tessio, like the viper that he is, he played along. Clemenza always voiced his opinions and voiced his thoughts. And Tessio was that viper, quiet and subtle. So I'm not surprised that Tessio traded. I'm not surprised at all. But see, Michael, with the foresight, he made arrangements for him to go in a separate car because Tessio set it up, the meeting with them. And that led to them exposing Tessio of being a traitor. They take Tessio away and they take care of him. After that, they take out all heads of the 5 families, and And the Corleone family becomes the last family standing in New York as they go to Nevada. The movie ends. Michael becomes Don with Clemenza kissing him on the hand. But Kay realizes that he's changed for the worse. He's no longer the innocent Michael that she fell in love with. Now, this was 1901 to 1955. Now, a couple years have gone by. Michael is in his late 30s, okay? He has 2 kids by Kay, okay? And Michael meets with Senator Gary, which is pretty much an event for his son's first communion. And Senator Gary is pretty much showing that he's not a fan of Michael. And he pretty much muscles Michael. That, he's going to get the gaming license on his terms. Michael stays cool, calm, and collected. And tells Senator Gary he's not going to give him nothing. And he want him to put up the money. Now, throughout this time, Michael is still trying to legitimize the business, which was Vito's vision. And after the communion, Michael gets a visitor, by the now head of the Corleone family in New York. His name is slipping my mind. The guy with the mustache. His name will come back to me. Frank Pantangeli. Frank Pantangeli comes to Michael and he wants Michael's permission to take out the Rosado brothers. Michael says no. That particular night, after the whole communion celebration, they have dinner as a celebration on a Nevada compound. There's an assassination attempt on Michael's life. After that, the family goes in defensive mode. Michael puts Tom Hagen in charge, okay, which is his older adopted brother by Vito, who Sonny brought home when they were younger. And there's like a whole investigation throughout the rest of the movie, Godfather 2, on who was the traitor, who set Michael up, which turned out to be Fredo, his older brother, after Sonny. Okay? And The Godfather 2 was very mysterious because it's all the anticipation on who was the traitor. Okay? And during that time, Hyman Roth, who was the last of Vito's generation who was still alive in the late 50s, he's semi-retired because his health is bad. And he gives a piece of everything he has to all the different families around the world. Okay? Michael goes to see him. And he fills him out. And he makes it seem like Pantangeli did it. Okay? Then he shows up to Pantangeli and makes it seem like Hyman Roth did it. But then Hyman Roth pulls a move. Okay? Sends people to attack Frank Pantangeli, making it seem like Michael did it. Okay? Which makes Pantangeli go against Michael. Okay? Which forces him, not forces him, but puts him in the mindset to testify and rant against Michael. Okay? But at the same time, Michael is able to outsmart Senator Gary by setting him up at a cat house, which causes Senator Gary to not be so aggressive in Michael Corleone's investigation. Okay? And Michael also, gets Frank Pantangeli's brother a front row seat at the hearing, at the investigation. Okay? And Frank Pantangeli winds up having amnesia, not remembering anything that happened. Okay? So Michael was able to outsmart Senator Gary and Frank Pantangeli. Frank Pantangeli winds up committing suicide. Okay? Now, Michael finds out that Fredo traded because when Fredo first brought the money in the Hyman Roth deal over to Michael, he said he didn't know Hyman Roth, he didn't know Johnny Ola, but while there was a presentation going on and Fredo was drunk, it slipped out of his mouth. That's how we found out that Fredo was a traitor. Fredo traded because he got tired of being in the position that he was in the Corleone family. He wanted independence. He wanted to be seen as a man of respect in the business world. But that wasn't who he was, you know? So Michael winds up putting out the order to assassinate his own brother, which is one of the darkest moments in movie history, okay? But while all this is going on, Michael is losing Kay. Kay winds up aborting the baby, even though throughout the movie, it seemed like it was a miscarriage, but Kay reveals that she pretty much aborted it, and that's what pretty much put the wedge and put the stake in him and Kay's relationship. Okay, and he kept the kids, and The Godfather 2 ends with Michael sitting pondering. Now, that was the timeline from 1948 to 1959. Okay. Now we're going into the final movie and final events of pretty much the late 70s all the way to 1997. Now, in the late 70s, going into the 80s, Michael is now 60 years old. And now Michael and the Corleone family is in business with the Vatican, okay? The Catholics, okay? And he has a big business deal going on. He has a charity, which is a front for the business deal. I forgot the name of the actual deal, the name of the business. And this deal was the closest that Michael got the family to being legitimate, believe it or not. And also during that time, he's looking for a successor, and he winds up taking the illegitimate son of Sonny that he had with the woman who he was having an affair with in Godfather 1. Okay. He winds up taking him under his wing, and he's very hot-headed. And you can see Vincent Mancini, who becomes Vincent Corleone, goes from being very hot-headed to very smoothed out by the end of the movie. Okay. And there's a shocker in Godfather 3. Michael winds up losing his daughter after he makes Vincent his successor. And Michael winds up sitting in Sicily by himself in 1997. And then he dies. Okay. But throughout Godfather 3 and throughout the timeline of the late 70s, 1980s, Michael was just trying to get this deal, get this deal complete with the Vatican. And he's trying to finally make the family legitimate. And he had to deal with, Jimmy Zaza, the guy Zaza. I think his name is Jimmy Zaza. He had to deal with him. He had to deal with Don Altabello, who was really the last, of Vito's people. Don Tomasino was in that movie. He wound up getting assassinated. The Godfather 3 was pretty good. That timeline was pretty good. A lot of people don't like it, but I think it was a great conclusion. Okay. But in all actuality, Michael wound up losing his daughter. You know, a lot of things went wrong with the Vatican deal. You know, the Pope wound up dying. You know, the Cardinal, who was pretty much the head person of the deal, you know, he wound up getting killed by Vincent. Vincent took out all the people that was a threat to the Corleone family at the end of the movie, you know, and you know, Michael gave it up. He gave it up because he just didn't have the strength anymore. After he had that heart attack, he just didn't have the strength. And his sister Connie, she became tough during that time, you know. So you know, the Godfather trilogy is definitely a treat, and I highly recommend when the novelty comes on TV, when the TV special comes on, watch it. It normally comes on around Thanksgiving time. It hasn't come on in a while, but it's definitely a treat. I know this video was a little long-winded, you know, and I was talking a little bit fast, but I got the point across. My favorite movie series of all time, The Godfather 1, 2, and 3, The Godfather Novelty, not The Godfather Collection, The Godfather Epic, whichever way you want to call it. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your week. I will be doing a follow-up to this video today, also on the comparison of Vito Corleone and Michael Corleone. And the big question, who was the better leader? Michael Corleone or Vito Corleone? Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.